Good afternoon, Facebook and YouTube. J-Dev has returned to give you exactly what you want. Of course, that would be more of me giving my thoughts, my opinions, and hopefully some award-winning expert analysis, although my expert analysis as of late hasn't been so award-winning. I'm just here to give you guys my final thoughts on UFC 235, what happened at the event, and kind of touching on what I predicted for the fights and what actually happened. So let's just get started. I predicted 7 fights, and I only got 2 of the 7 right. Not so much award-winning expert analysis there, but let's kind of talk about the fight. So you had Mickey Gall versus Diego Sanchez. I predicted Mickey Gall to win. Of course, that wasn't the case. Diego Sanchez won. Mickey Gall started off the fight really nice, but then he just gassed himself out, in my opinion. And then Diego Sanchez was able to wrestle him and just dominate him for most of the rest of the fight. You had the main event of the preliminary fights on ESPN. Khabib Magomed Shafarov versus Jeremy Stephens. I predicted Jeremy Stephens to lose, and I was actually right on that one. I just didn't think he was going to win. And I think Jeremy Stephens should go up in weight. I don't know. I think he'd be more powerful at 155 because I think he's 145 right now, if that's what division he's flyweight is. Anyway, another thing I should touch on, I didn't give any predictions for this fight, but you had Johnny Walker versus Misha Cirkunov. And Johnny Walker, who's a very, very talented light heavyweight, who's 6'6", 205. He did an amazing flying knee. It's the only thing he did in the fight to knock Misha Cirkunov out. So I should have gave some analysis on that fight. And I would have predicted Johnny Walker to win, but I didn't. But you should be on the lookout for Johnny Walker because he could be a top contender in the division. He's definitely going to get a top 10 guy next to fight. And then if he beats that person, he should get one more fight and have a title shot. So 2 more fights in a row he wins, he might have a title shot. And now to the main card. Of course, you start off the card with Munoz versus Cody Garbrandt. I predicted, of course, Cody Garbrandt to win. That wasn't the case. The fight was very entertaining, especially for the last 30-some seconds, 45, 30 seconds, as they started going at it, with haymakers, and Cody Garbrandt got caught, clipped, and knocked out as the fight was stopped. So I still believe in Cody. He's just having some trouble as of late, and hopefully he can get back to his winning ways with his next fight. But Munoz certainly looked good, though. Then we had Weili Zhang versus Tecia Torres. I predicted Tecia Torres to win. And yet another case where I was wrong. I can't win them all, I guess. Then you had Ben Askren making his UFC debut against ruthless Robbie Lawler. I, of course, predicted Robbie Lawler to win the fight because I didn't think I thought if he worked on his takedown defense, he would win. And the fight started off really good as he slammed Askren on his head. Kind of got him in like a full Nelson to a certain degree and just dropped him on his head. Something like that. Not necessarily that, but it was really cool. And then some vicious ground and pound happened. But a lot of people say this fight should have been stopped at that point. If you look at it clearly, Ben Askren's trying to get his arm from behind his back to defend himself. So he wasn't out, and that was actually a good call by Herb Dean not to stop it at that point due to the fact that he was just trying to get his arm free so he could defend himself. Eventually, of course, he gets back up and then gets ruthless Robbie Lawler in, I forgot the exact title of the move, but it was something like a headlock. But the ref, Herb Dean, actually stops the fight at that point, and it looked at one point that Robbie Lawler's arm went limp. But then if you look at the replay from cage side, looking into the cage, you can clearly see at one point Robbie Lawler's arm does fall down a little bit, but it's still moving. He's just kind of relaxing. But then when Herb Dean gets in there to lift his arm up to see if he's still up, his arm goes up. It doesn't go all the way down, and I don't know why Herb Dean stopped it, but he must not have noticed it. But he called the fight obviously too early. It could have ended anyway, but you don't want a fight to end like that. So I think they should redo that fight within the next 4 or 5 months. Robbie Lawler looked really good, and Ben Askren, he doesn't look impressive at all, but I mean he's got a technique that works. He's obviously a legit wrestler. I'm not too happy what Ben Askren said after the fight. Obviously, he knew there was some controversy, and one of the first things he said to Joe Rogan when he got interviewed was, "What, is that the best you got? You got your ass beat by Robbie Lawler, and you're lucky to win that fight. And he might have won it anyway. You know, I don't know how long that headlock would have lasted. In the post-fight press conference, Robbie Lawler said that he was getting ready to pick him up again and slam him. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. I mean, Ben Askren wants to have the winner of the Darren Till Masvidal fight, and obviously everybody else wants him to fight Robbie Lawler again, including Dana White. So we'll see what happens with that. But I certainly wanted Robbie Lawler to win. I'm not happy, and I now hate Ben Askren. I didn't like him much before anyway because he's a Tyron Woodley guy, and I really like Tyron Woodley. Speaking of Tyron Woodley, you had Tyron Woodley versus Kamaru Usman for the UFC welterweight championship of the world, and Kamaru Usman broke Tyron Woodley. He dominated him for 5 rounds. Somewhat of a boring fight, other than the fact that the last like 30 seconds of the 4th round was pretty entertaining as they were swinging back and forth at each other. Last minute or 30 seconds, whatever it was. But Usman wins the title, and it sounds like he's going to fight Colby Covington next. I don't know if Colby's still officially the interim champion or not. He's carrying around the belt, but I don't think he's actually officially the interim champion anymore. So we'll have to see. But yeah, Usman, and apparently Usman wrestled or fought with a broken foot, like he already had a broken foot going into the fight. I'm not sure if that's ever accurate or not, but something was said at the post-fight press conference that leads me to believe that. So that's interesting. Hats off to Kamaru Usman. And of course, I predicted Tyron Woodley to win, only because of the fact that every time I predicted him to lose, he wins. So I tried to go reverse, and I also said that Kamaru Usman didn't actually fight anybody that's legit yet. And I guess Rafael Dos Santos he fought, but I didn't realize he was in the top 5 in the division. And then, of course, you have the main event of the evening, Anthony Lionheart-Smith versus John Bones Jones. John Jones wins in pretty dominant fashion, dominates all 5 rounds, although there was some huge controversy in the 4th round. Toward the end of the 4th round, Jones has Smith sitting on the octagon with his back against the cage, and he does a knee strike to Anthony Smith, but Smith was still a downed opponent, and Jones was timing it for when he got up, but he didn't actually get him fully up, and they could have disqualified Jones at that point in time if Smith couldn't continue, and Smith would be the light heavyweight champion of the world. Obviously, that's not how he wants to win the title, and I'm glad that he said he was all right and that he could continue, so because that would not have been the best moment. You're getting dominated and you happen to win because of a disqualification. It kind of reminds me of the Matt Hamill situation against John Jones back in the day. Of course, Matt Hamill wasn't a champion at the time, but Jones is dominating the fight and does a 12-6 elbow where the elbow comes straight down and not at an angle and gets disqualified after he's dominating a round. I think it was just 1 round, too. But anyway, sounds like John Jones might get Thiago Santos next. I'm looking forward to a fight against Johnny Walker if Jones can continue to dominate this light heavyweight division. But Jones now wants to take some time off. I guess he's a little hurt after the fight, with all the kicks he threw and whatnot. Obviously, there's that fight with DC that could still potentially happen. I'm not sure how many more fights DC is going to do. It sounds like his next fight will be against Brock Lesnar, and I think my money's on the fight, or my money is around the summertime, like International Fight Week. Sometime in July that fight will take place, or maybe the first Saturday in August or something like that. Of course, Brock Lesnar has his WWE obligations, which I'm sure he can work around. WWE's pretty lenient on what Brock Lesnar does outside of WWE. So anyway, that's UFC 235. Of course, next UFC 236 in late April, you've got 2 title fights, actually 2 interim title fights. You've got for the interim title, because Robert Whittaker's out, Israel Adesanya versus Kevin Gastelum. And then you've got Max Holloway stepping up to 155 versus Dustin Poirier for the interim lightweight championship. So that should be an interesting card. I'll, of course, give my predictions. Hopefully my predictions will be a little bit better than UFC 235. And then the fight night prediction that I predicted Cain Velasquez to beat Francis Ngannou didn't work out so well. And then, of course, UFC 232, I had predicted a bunch of fights, and I only got on the main card, and I only got 2 of them right, the 2 title fights, which I guess that's the best thing. I predicted, of course, Amanda Nunes to beat Cyborg and John Jones to beat Alexander Gustafsson. So Hope you enjoyed the predictions. Give your thoughts on UFC 235 or future UFC events if you'd like to. And of course, as always, I'll be back again soon. Later.